So thank you for those kind words. I appreciate all of you being on the call, especially this time of night as well. Whenever I do these things, if you haven't had a meeting with me yet, I definitely like for them to be more of a conversation instead of a presentation. So I'm going to cover why you would submit National Life Group applications, as well as what we offer, and also talk about how to get you guys some instant approvals more often, because instant approvals mean that you guys get paid faster. So for those of you that don't know me, Lawrence, thanks for joining again. You're going to hear kind of a repeat of the other day, but I'm sure we'll have a little bit more engagement today. My name is Devon Martin. It's a humble and honor and a privilege to work for the company that I do, but equally as honorable to support an agency like Family First Life. You guys are super hard workers, good system, and I think next year is probably going to be the best year we've ever had, because Family First Life is shifting over to the IUL, the Index Universal Life business, now more than ever. 5, 6 years ago, I couldn't really get people to return my phone calls because that wasn't really the focus. Now my phone's blowing up more than ever. So it's fantastic. But I genuinely appreciate each of you. And there's 737 insurance carriers. So why the heck would you ever submit National Life Group? Before I go into my PowerPoint, and I'm not going to go through every slide. I am going to kind of cover it high level, and we'll go in different directions. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of unpack IULs probably different than a lot of people do. And the reason why is because I feel a lot of agents can sometimes be transactional. So it's good to have a recipe and a formula to follow, because simple is the way to go. At the same time, I'm going to challenge you guys, because choosing an index allocation, for example, in an IUL is just as important as structuring it in some way, shape, and form. And a lot of times there's confusion about which index option to choose. That's just one example of many of what I'm going to get into. But as far as the Index Universal Life goes, I am going to kind of start simple and get into more details as we go. But Index Universal Life, permanent life insurance contract. Money grows tax deferred. You can take it out as a loan and a withdrawal tax free. There's so many different features and advantages to the Index Universal Life, and it's really tailored for everybody. And I mean, everybody could use life insurance at the end of the day. Sadly, some people that want it can't get it, right? That's the way it works. But you guys have a phenomenal opportunity, because a lot of people just do what they're told. I'm going to put money into my 401k, have some savings, and hopefully I can retire, right? A lot of people don't have their money in a tax-free account, because at the end of the day, when it comes to retirement, you get your money in one of three ways. You get your money taxable, you get it tax deferred, or you get it tax-free. We can all agree that tax-free is the best out of those three, but a lot of people have their money in a tax time bomb. And I love annuities, I love stocks, I love diversifying your financial portfolio. However, people have money in an account where, regardless of how they touch it or how they pass it down to their loved ones, they have to pay some sort of tax, right? Life insurance is tax-free. And if you were in Florida, you heard me give the four numbers 7702. So if you guys if that doesn't ring a bell to you, 7702, that is literally the tax code that makes life insurance tax-free. So even though some people say, I don't really need life insurance, or I don't want it, it actually works in the client's favor, because that's what makes borrowing the cash value a tax-free vehicle. So let's kind of talk about National Life Group for a little bit. So why would you sell our company? The word is dependability and history. So we're about to celebrate our 176th anniversary as a company. Disney is going to celebrate 101 years. So we've been around 75 years longer than Disney. And that means we've paid out claims through world wars, Great Depression, stock market, even crashes, even the Titanic. We actually paid out claims because of the Titanic, which really speaks volume to how long we've been around. Pretty unique. And we're a 100% mutual company. And I'm not going to skip over that statement. I'm going to unpack what that means. So being a mutual company, 100% mutual company, that means that the policy holders are the owners of our company. So for example, every quarter, every year, my CEO, our executives, they're not sitting in a room to say, how can we pay each other more? How can we throw our company name on a Super Bowl commercial? Right. Everything we do goes into to our policyholders, because they're the owners of our company. So we have the best products, and don't take my word for it. Google, you can do it right now if you want. Number one IUL carrier in market share. It's going to say National Life Group for the past 13, 14 consecutive quarters. So being a mutual company, that means that we really, really like having the best product. A lot of companies, and I'm not going to say any names, but a lot of companies have flexibility, especially when it comes, I don't want to say the word flexibility. They make certain decisions, especially after a policy is issued, to potentially increase their stock. So, for example, you could have a company that issues all this business, and in 3 or 4 years, maybe they're having a little bit of a rough time. You can increase the cost of insurance on existing books of business, and that's not illegal, is what I'm getting at. So National Life Group has never increased cost of insurance on existing books of business, and a lot of carriers can do that. Even renewals. So you guys might have heard me tell this story. I was at dinner, I think it was last year, with a vice president and one of our longest agency owners. And we sat down at the table and he said, I know National Life Group, the agency owner said, I know National Life Group is the #1 IUL carrier every year. But I don't like that every time I illustrate you guys, it's an uphill battle. Even though you're #1, 3 or 4 other carriers illustrate higher than you. He then followed up that statement by saying, I love that I've never had to go back to a disappointed client, though. And what does that mean? An illustration is just an illustration. Other carriers might illustrate higher than us, but we are kind of conservative when it comes to those numbers, and our policies actually perform. The most important thing is that you actually get cash value growth inside of those statements in 20, 30 years from now with your clients. So that's a little bit about why you'd sell us, the dependability of the company. And a lot of it goes to our living benefits as well. So living benefits is life insurance that you don't have to die to use. And before I talk about those, I'm going to talk about this puzzle piece, because if I was an agent, especially if I was newer, and this can go for any agent, not just the newer agents, this is the perfect icebreaker, because a lot of times people are scared to start when really that's just the first step, is starting. This is the perfect icebreaker. So when you're sitting with your clients, you can say, Mr. or Mrs. Client, looking at this, would you agree that these are 3 of the top financial consumer concerns? Die too soon. Would it be a problem for you and your family if you were to die too soon? Absolutely. I want my spouse to keep the house. I want to make sure my kids can still go to college, so on and so forth. What about becoming ill? One of the phrases I usually say and promote, the only thing more expensive than actually dying is surviving an illness. So cancers, heart attack, stroke, all those events that happen to everyday people, unfortunately, you are covered with this as well. Live too long. The #1 fear for people at retirement is outliving their money. With medicine and technology and everything going on, people are living longer than ever. And I've never met somebody that says, I have too much money saved for retirement. So Mr. or Mrs. Client, if there was one solution that solves all 3 of these concerns, would that be something that you're interested in? Absolutely. And then you get into the illustration, it breaks it down for you piece by piece, and it really answers it for itself. So I'm going to talk about the living benefits next. And then I'm going to open it up for questions on what I've talked about so far. I'm not going to dig too heavily into these. I'll give a 1-line sentence for each. I'll kind of say some things to get the gears turning, and then
Yeah,
open it up
Seth,
for
I'm on his
questions.
Facebook page. Yes.
So
Yeah. And
with that said, terminal illness is if you have 2 years or less to live. So if a U.S. doctor diagnosed me with 2 years or less to live, I get my terminal illness payout. Chronic illness is if I can't do 2 of my 6 activities of daily living, dressing myself, bathing myself, traveling. And then critical illness and critical injury, those actually have a lot of triggers. So I'm just going to list those out in front of you. And keep in mind, these are just riders on the policies at no cost. These are automatically on your IUL and term policies in all 50 states. If you remove these from the products, which you would never do, the price out of pocket is the exact same. And this should just scream prospects to you, because we have no restrictions in underwriting when it comes to military, firefighters. So you have that severe burns critical injury for your firefighters all day. So they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. If other carriers tell you they have living benefits, I'm going to challenge you and put this right in front of you. So I'm going to stop. I know that was a lot. Any questions you guys have so far, just get the gears turning. I get common questions. What's the percentage? There is no set percent for the living benefit payouts, because I could have a heart attack and be up and walking in a couple of weeks, or could have heart attack and need open bypass or triple bypass surgery. So the more the severe, the higher the payout. Thankfully, the illustration does all the work for you. And then foreign nationals. So if I'm overseas or not in America, I technically do need to be on US soil to qualify for a living benefit. But if you have access to a US doctor, that's kind of a different story. I can use a piece of PowerPoint. You can use a piece.
Hey, Devon, I have a quick question on that puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Which we took out of the illustration. At the bottom, it says for agent use, that one. For agent use, not to use with the public. So why is that? Because I think that is so powerful to put in our PowerPoints, but yet it says we can't use it.
That's just for this presentation, Neal. It's on every slide of the presentation. You can use the puzzle piece. Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. Feel free to use it. Good catch though. Good catch.
So Devon, question on living benefits.
Yep.
If somebody accesses the living benefits, does the life insurance then go away, or it's only what you've used?
See, Francis, this is why you're the one that submitted the biggest case in FFL history. What a great question. So if a client ever takes the full amount of the living benefit that we're going to give to them, the policy terminates. So for example, I have a $100,000 policy. I get cancer. I'm only going to receive about $70,000. If the client takes that full amount, they don't get the remaining $30,000. It's a discounted death benefit. They don't have to take it all. They can take half. So if they took 35 grand, their remaining death benefit would be 50,000. It would just reduce it by 50,000. It's not all or nothing.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Does that impact their premiums if they tap into the living benefits? Does their premium change?
Good question. Are you saying if the policy stays on the books because they only took a portion?
Yes.
Yeah, so they would need to pay less premium. They are able to pay less premium. And it all depends on when the policy is issued and how well it's funded, right? Because after 30, 40 years, I might not even need to pay any premiums. But Rosie, to answer your question, yes, you potentially would be able to pay less premium at that point.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Devon, the other question is we have that one benefit that it says it pays out monthly. Is that a monthly payment forever, or is there a limitation on that monthly payment?
That's another good question. So chronic illness is the only living benefit. That's the one where if I can't do 2 of my 6 activities of daily living, that pays out 24% annually, and I have to requalify every year. So for example, I'm a client, and for at least 90 days, I can't complete 2 of my 6 ADLs. I get my 24% payout. Let's fast forward 1 year. If I'm able to do more than 2 of my 6, I don't get a payout. If I'm still not able to, I get an additional 24%, and I'm able to do that for 4 years.
Oh, got it.
You good, Silvana or Sylvia?
Yeah, no, that was new to me. I thought it was up to 2 year. Would you touch base one more time about, that I write a lot of business for immigrants? So someone you just mentioned being in USO for living benefits. Would you touch base on not just that, but anything that would apply for non-citizens or potentially whatever, people that I might go back.
Yep. So keeping it simple, US citizen or not, you technically need to be on United States soil to get a living benefit. However, we have been known to have clients who have access to US doctors outside of the country, and that's a different story. So we couldn't accept, Spanish or Mandarin documents, but if you have access to a US doctor outside of the country, that kind of provides more flexibility.
Okay, one more question. Sorry if I'm taking too much. So I have an agent that got someone without a social security, without an IT number. However, this person had paperwork in, to potentially or whatever with the immigration system. This person told me that person got approved, but I want to know a little bit more.
I would have to know more specifics on that specific person. However, to get a policy with us, you need a social security number or a tax identification number. If you don't have one of those two things, you have to have a foreign tax ID. So there was a person in Southern Texas. He's worked at a Dairy Queen for like 40 plus years. His family came over here illegally, so he was a child at the time, but he's been working at Dairy Queen 40 plus years out of his life. So he's been paying taxes and everything. That's kind of a slam dunk because he's been here forever. He lives here. He pays taxes. So you need a TIN or a social. If you don't have one of those two things, you need the foreign tax ID number.
Okay.
Devon,
Yeah.
so if people relocate from the US, are they supposed to notify National Life Group?
We can't control what happens after issue, Bilha. So that you see what I'm saying?
No.
They're leaving the US.
So are you saying if a client gets a
Mexico,
policy and they're issued and they move, is that your question?
yeah, they
We
are now
can't-
living in Mexico or in Dubai.
We asked the question on the application, do you plan on traveling outside of the United States within the next few years? And if they are, you got to disclose that. But again, we can't control what happens after issue. If your questions are now, well, will the death benefit pay out? Within 2 years, every insurance carrier is in the contestability period. So we reserve the right to investigate the claim. Just because your clients go to Mexico and pass away, that doesn't mean that we are or are not going to pay the claim. As long as you guys answer the application honestly and there's no surprises, then insurance carriers should be paying out claims in the first 2 years. Regardless, after the first 2 years, death benefits pay out regardless. So even if you commit suicide, even if anything happens after 2 years, we have to legally pay it out. But to answer your question directly, the clients don't have to tell us when they move, and we can't control what happens after issue. I'll unpack that with you another time. But go ahead, Savannah, Edgar, go ahead, guys.
Out of the country beneficiaries, is there like the 7 countries still being monitored by the US, whatever? Is it harder to send? How would it benefit? Let's say my niece, my niece, she goes back to Argentina. She's my beneficiary in my NLG policy. She lives there. She has no standing in America. Let's say she lives in Cuba. Is there any difference? Because I do have a lot of Cubans and Venezuelan clients.
If we mail a check, it has to be to a United States address. If we ACH it, it has to go into a United States bank account. So your beneficiaries can live wherever, but we have to put it into a US bank account.
Thank you.
Edgar, go ahead.
That was going to be my comment. I've ran into a couple of situations like that where people want to go back to their country, and as long as it's attached to a U.S. account, then they're good to go. So yeah.
Exactly. Love it. All right. Let's talk about everybody's favorite part of the sales process, underwriting. I know how much you guys love it so much. So this, other than prospecting, getting a lead on the phone, submitting an application, this is probably the most difficult part of what you guys do. Because whenever you submit the application and it's waiting to issue, the longer it takes, the more likely the clients can back out and change their mind, right? National Life Group goes up to $3 million, no blood, no urine, no APS, just the application in our IULs. This is a game changer in our industry. So this is still a fully underwritten program. So Devon, what the heck do you mean? As far as the client goes, from their lens and from their eyes, it's only the application. We are still going to ask you and your client, how old are your mom and dad? Do you take any medication? Have you been to the hospital? What's your height and weight? High blood pressure, history of cancer. We ask you everything because that's what allows us to go up so high, in face amount and have it be a non-med program. Your clients can still get elite and preferred in the high rate classes, even though they're not doing blood or urine. We actually won't even let you do the blood and urine under these guidelines unless we request it. And 97% of the time, we don't. So this is a fully underwritten program. These are very, very important guidelines. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have a 63-year-old client and you're designing an illustration and you click on minimum death benefit max cash value and the death benefit says $260,000. You obviously don't want to underinsure people, but if I'm an agent, I'm probably just going to specify $250,000. That way I don't put the client through blood and urine. So people 66 and older, 100% of the time have to do a paramed. Under these guidelines, you don't have to do a paramed. It is only the application. So make sure you guys are looking at these figures and having them in the back of your pocket, because these are the instant approval guidelines. What do I mean by instant approval? I mean it touching an underwriter or not. And that means the policy can issue within a day or two, or needing to take 1, 2, 3+ weeks. So I'm going to get into instant approvals and how to get them more. Before I do that, I want your underwriting questions. Devon, I got a guy. He had COVID. He has diabetes. He has a criminal history. He is unfortunately a Los Angeles Lakers fan. Give me any of the risk assessment ones that you guys have. Give it to me.
Lakers fan has to be denied.
Say again, Oscar?
If he's a Lakers fan, he has to be denied.
That's 100% true. And Celtics fans are preferred.
I have a question. If somebody was arrested, but then they dropped the charges, would that be a no?
It wouldn't be a no. It should be fine as long as there's nothing else going on. You know, they're not on probation. Probation is an automatic decline. But if they simply got arrested and they were acquitted, it should be fine. We might ask for proof of documentation, but yep.
So how would I answer that? Because like charges were dropped. There is like they just dropped all charges, even though there were no charges. It was just, you know, a cop that was mad.
Just disclose it, say charges are dropped. And then if underwriting needs anything else, they'll let you know.
Okay.
Yep.
What if they were a felon like 20 years ago? They got charged with a felony like when they were a teenager, like stealing cars, for instance, and have not gotten in trouble since.
Good question, Chase. So it's always a case by case scenario, right? We've approved felons, we've denied felons. If it's your only one, you've changed your life around, you have a great job, good credit score, no diabetes, everything else checks out, probably going to be okay. If you've had multiple and other things come up in our database, then not exactly ideal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick question. 3-year-old with sleep apnea?
A 3-year-old?
Yeah.
We probably would want to hold off on that. So good question. So with juveniles, if you're diagnosed with diabetes before age 20, you're in automatic decline. If you have medication and suicide attempts and depression and anxiety, a significant amount, I want to be clear on this. A lot of people have anxiety, right? It's almost normalized. But if there's a severe medication prescribed for juveniles, we're not a big fan of that either. Sleep apnea as a 3-year-old, I would probably say no for the time being.
Wait, no, it won't go through, or no issue?
I don't think that one would issue. No.
Okay.
And by the way, underwriting is one of those subjects where it can be hypothetical and you can have an actual scenario. For those of you that might have family members or your own children or even on yourself, if you have certain circumstances, please get with Neal and I can talk with you offline about that. So if you have actual scenarios and you guys are really wanting kind of specialized eyes on one or an answer, just let me know.
You're awesome at that. Quick question.
Just a follow-up.
Go ahead, Bill.
This is Mary. Just a follow-up on the juvenile conditions. Autism, high functioning autism, no medication. I have several of those that have come up and I'm not sure if they would be rejected.
Good question, Mary. So your keyword there was high functioning. So it should be okay. So this is how I'm going to kind of cover autism. So as long as you're able to do what you should be doing at that age, you should be okay. So for example, if I'm 11 years old and I can brush my teeth, I can eat by myself, I can wash my hands, I can do everything that, forgive me, I don't know how to say this, but anything that a normal 11-year-old could do, I'm okay. So high functioning is the key word, but that one's a big case-by-case scenario as well, but not an automatic decline by any means.
Okay, so in that case, do we need like a backup from the doctor, probably to just give an evaluation of how functional someone is compared with a normal person?
That's a good question. It depends. Honestly, some underwriters want that, some underwriters don't. So it just depends.
I actually got somebody with autism approved, and he actually doesn't really speak, but he's able to communicate through sign language, and he's in special needs classes, but he's not on medication and not had any complications, so they approved him.
Yeah, Sue, thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna Venmo
I've had
you
autism approved
$10.
too. I've had 2 cases approved of autism, but you kind of have to lobby. Like, you write long paragraphs in there. The child is functional. They go to regular school. They are not on medication. You kind of have to lobby, like just give an explanation that the underwriter says. I feel like with them, you kind of have to lobby. It's like you're like an attorney in front of a judge. You're trying to show the underwriter that this person is not like unhealthy or uninsurable. You kind of have to really do a lot of explanations in there for them to consider. I've had 2 issued, and so long as you explain away in the feedback there.
Yep. It works in your favor to disclose stuff, which I'm actually going to unpack that next. Michael and Neal, go ahead.
Sorry, Devon. I had a 4-year-old. The mother did a policy, and he was denied because of autism. But he functioned really well, like the mom said. He's not taking any medications or anything like that.
4 is young, Miracle. I'd have to look into the specifics on that. Did you recently submit that?
No, sir. That was like a couple months ago.
If you can track down the policy number, you know how to find me. Just email me and I'll ask my underwriter about it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Neal, Michael, go ahead.
Michael, go ahead.
Is there a credit rating no-go rate? Like if their credit is below a certain rating? And the other question is if there are things found that's on the MIB that they know aren't accurate, what sort of documentation is typically suggested so that way they can show that even though it might be on their MIB, that their doctors are basically saying that's not the case?
Michael, very good question. So 1, there's not a set credit score rating. If you have a 500 credit score, if you have a negative credit score, there's no set rating for that. With that said, there's a big correlation with credit scores. If I have a 600 credit score, I'm probably not paying my cable bill. And if I can't pay for my cable bill, I'm not going to pay for my life insurance policy. I might be involved in other substances, X, Y, and Z, right? To answer your question, there's not a set credit score. Just because you have a bad credit score doesn't mean we're going to deny you. But also, if you have a great credit score, we could still potentially deny you. So it's only one piece of the pie, right? If you have other factors going on and you don't have a good credit score, it doesn't work in your favor. As far as the MIB stuff goes, I'm going to be very transparent with each and every one of you. Buyers are liars. Out of all the disputed MIB and Milliman reports that we've had a 0.07% error rate. I'm talking 0.07%. So do things happen and mistakes happen? Sure. But every single case I've ever dove into in my time, in the 5+ years, I've only had about 3 that have come back and weren't true. So if they want to dispute it, just tell the underwriter, you can get the report, and then you can call the third-party company that we use. But Michael, I'm sure you have something to comment or ask after that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I got your 4th case for you.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, get with Neal, and I'm intrigued. Send it my way.
5th case.
Okay. 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Devon, I've had 2 clients from the African continent that have had malaria vaccinations when they were kids. They come to the States, that is in their system forever. They get declined because the underwriting says they have malaria. But they got the vaccination. It's in them. They can never get that out.
But if they got it in Africa, how do we know that they even got the vaccine to begin with? That wouldn't come up in our database.
I can explain that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
When Africans go to Africa for vacation, they have to take the anti-malaria to prevent malaria, and it shows up in their medical report. You have to explain that they only take it when they go to Africa on vacation. It's not like a prescription or a condition they have. So most underwriters are not familiar with malaria in Africa. So like come December, Africans will be going home and most of them will take it. When they come next year, it will show up in their prescription. And the underwriters assume they have malaria. So you have to say they only take it when they're traveling. You have to explain that. And same to tuberculosis and all that comes up for African clients.
Yeah, more preventive. It's more preventive than
It's not
Yeah.
treatment. Yeah.
Okay. Neal, does that help?
Yeah, that helps for sure.
Sweet. All right, let's
Thank you.
what time is it? I'm by the way, I'm okay going later than 8 because I love you guys so much, but I do want to be respectful of people's time. So any other underwriting stuff before we move on?
Yeah.
Brian has a
We can
question.
talk about it later.
Okay.
Hello?
I'll be here, Savannah. Unless you think everybody will benefit, bring it up.
Hi, Devin,
Juvenile
can you hear me?
limitations.
Juvenile limitations. Okay, so that's actually changed. So we can go up to $500,000 in death benefit in any scenario whatsoever. So in any scenario whatsoever, the child can get up to 500,000. After that, they can match the highest of the two parents. So if mom has 700,000 and dad has 400,000, the most the child can get is 700,000.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead. Somebody else was saying something.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ryan.
Hi, Devin. Thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm a new agent, and I submitted an application recently, and it was denied because the client didn't disclose, or I also didn't disclose the fact that he had been in like a psychiatric unit. And then I responded to that hoping it could be reviewed again because I really didn't understand the process. And like, you had to wait a year to submit another one. But someone got back to me, I guess the case manager, saying that they need the Millman report, but like his permission. Like, does he have to pay for that?
So we say that they do, but I haven't seen a case where they have to, but we will have to get that documentation though, but he shouldn't have to pay for it. Just call them.
So it's just from the one physician he saw, or over his like entire lifetime, like all of his medical records since he was a child, or just in that episode of that happened?
Whatever the underwriter is talking about. So probably just that episode, I would assume.
Okay, perfect. That makes it easier. Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just did an application today, and when I put the person in, he's 19. So when he was 19, I put his social security number in and tried to re-put his social security number in, and they told me that I couldn't use the same social security number. So I was trying to figure out, what do you do there?
So the social security number was typed in wrong, and now we're asking for confirmation of the correct social security number. Did I understand that correctly?
No, I put the social security number in right, and when I put the social security number in right, it was like the owner, the 19-year-old. I put him as the owner, and then they wanted another. I tried to re-put in a social security number in another area. I'm trying to think of what area it was. It was like,
So it treated the 19-year-old as a juvenile, and it was needing an owner.
Did you already submit the application, Brenda? Is it pending?
Yeah.
Okay, just communicate in the portal the correct social security number with the correct name.
Okay.
Okay.
But the social was correct, wasn't it, Brenda?
Yes, for the
juvenile, and it automatic based on his age, and he just turned 19. So when is a cutoff of a juvenile? Because I've had that too, where they just turned 18, and I still had to have the parent as the owner.
Push back on underwriting on that. 18 and older, you can own your own policy. Push back on underwriting.
Okay. So
Okay.
Okay.
But I couldn't even get past, same thing with Brenda. She had to put the mom's social security number in as an owner, treat someone as, in order to finish the application. So how do we go to an underwriter with that? I mean,
I haven't heard of that yet.
It happened to me once. And then when Brenda happened to her today, she called me. I'm like, oh yeah, let's ask Devin. And I forgot about it. And thanks, Brenda.
Do this. Put the insured as the juvenile, because that's the most important thing. If it's demanding a different owner, put the mom or dad as the owner. And then after you submit it, work with underwriting in the portal to say, we want the 18, 19-year-old to own it. Do that.
Okay.
I mean, I had a similar
Okay,
situation.
that makes sense.
So just go back on the app and
Through the case communication in the portal, your smartphone.
okay.
Yep.
Because Devon, didn't you guys change that? We used to be able to, if a 18 to 24-year-old was still in school, we could write a policy, and then you change that this year to where 19 to 24-year-olds have to be the owner.
Nothing's changed. It's just that we take into consideration if you're an adult, you have to own your own policy. We don't necessarily care who pays for it, but if you're 30, 40 years old, your mom or dad can't own it. You got to own it. If you're 22, 24, 21, we understand that you're in school, so there's flexibility. So nothing's changed. And if you're in college, we have flexibility for your parent to own the policy, even though you're an adult.
Okay.
Yep. Edgar, go ahead. And then we're going to move on to instant approval so I can get you guys paid quickly.
Yeah, just to add on that, I did have a similar situation, and I believe I spoke to somebody at National Life, and they told me it was a state-by-state issue, that depending on what state you're in, depends on when you're considered an adult.
I think that's true too, Edgar. So that's a very good point. Quite literally, there's one state where you're considered an adult as age 14, and I'm not even exaggerating. So it does go state by state, and we can't break the law. So if we have to do that, we have to do that. I would just be shocked if the states have anybody that's older than 19 that's considered an adult. So usually you're considered an adult younger than 18. Older than that, I haven't seen any states that have the cutoff. But Edgar, you're totally right. It goes by the states at the end of the day. So, okay, this is going to be probably the most important thing of tonight, guys. So, other than knowing the non-med guidelines. So here's the thing. You guys have to disclose information. So you guys are great. Your persistency, and persistency means if your clients are still making their premiums after the policy is issued, and your persistency is fantastic. You guys write good business there, and you educate your clients well. What I need help on, and what I'm catching heat on, is placement. And what placement means is how many applications you submit that actually end up being issued. And as a company, we try to hit a 75, 80% placement rate. FFL is at 50 right now, and we have to increase that. It has to be higher. To improve placement, we have to know what to submit to National Life Group, what not to submit to National Life Group, and how to submit policies to National Life Group. And here's the moral of the story. You guys need to disclose everything, and it works in your favor to disclose information. I totally understand. Buyers are liars. You're only as good and accurate as the information that the client is telling you. The reason why I'm going to spend so much time on this topic is because this is what's going to get you guys potentially paid quicker without a lot of your policies, or a decent amount of your policies, not needing to see underwriting. So knowing what I know in my seat as a carrier rep and dealing with policies, if I'm out in the field and I'm an agent, if a client fills out an application with me and every single health question was no, I'm actually going to pause for a second and say, Mr. or Mrs. Client, are you sure? You didn't apply to another insurance carrier. You didn't have a medication prescribed to you. You truly have nothing going on. If they say, yeah, well, I did have a medication, it was prescribed 2 years ago, you have to disclose that, guys. You have to disclose it. You can even say client doesn't take it anymore if that's the case. But if you don't disclose it, it's like you're hiding something from us. So the more information you disclose, the better of a chance you can get instant approvals, and the better of a chance that you guys get paid faster. A lot of people are just saying no on every single health question, thinking that we're not going to catch it, or the clients are just flat out lying. The other very common thing on why things are not instantly approval is insurance carrier activity. So you guys buy leads. Leads get crossed over, duplicated. The number one thing right now is everyone's just saying no. If your clients applied to insurance carrier X, and they didn't take the policy, you still need to disclose that. Insurance carrier X, face amount was roughly this, they didn't want the policy. That's fine. If you don't disclose it, even though they didn't take the policy, that policy will not instantly approve. So you guys have to disclose everything. So I'm going to cover this slide, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So these are two very important things. Don't include an attachment on the application. I do not care if the application's asking you to attach something. never attach anything in the application. It will not instantly approve. Devon, what about the illustration? You should always be going from the illustration into the e-app. There's a button that allows you to bring over the information, the death benefit, the sex, the name, the state, the riders, the premium. It saves you 10, 15 minutes. That allows you to click that an application was viewed on a computer screen and it's signed. So don't worry about attaching an illustration. I did a policy last year for my buddy's girlfriend. She moved over here relatively recent. I did a life insurance application for her. It wanted her license, a picture of documentation, her visa. I didn't do any of that. I just submitted it, and then the policy approved. If the policy didn't instantly approve, I could have just provided that information after, right? But hope for an instant approval. You obviously want to disclose all the information, but I'm talking about including attachments. The other part, you're going to see an agent remarks box. It's a big white box in the beginning of an application. Don't type anything in there. If you literally put the words thank you or send a paper copy, anything like that, it will not instantly approve. So those are two big ones. Here's the other ones. Don't free type everything into the application. So for example, if your clients take a medication, let's just say ibuprofen, right? If you type ibuprofen and move on, the system thinks that you're hiding from it. Start to type I, B, U, and then the drop down will filter. You need to physically click the drop down. If you don't click the drop downs, it's like you never disclosed it. The other thing is primary care physician. Always include the doctor 100% of the time. Always include the doctor 100% of the time. We don't care if you're getting routine care unless you're older than age 60 or you have a medical issue going on or you're a child. Other than that, you don't even need a doctor, but you have to put something in. Google the urgent care that they just went to and put that in if you need to. The last thing is children. Do not eyeball children. If mom or dad is saying, oh yeah, the child's about 50 pounds and 70 inches tall, be accurate to the inch and to the pound, because sometimes that's the difference maker with juveniles getting approved or not. Okay. If you do all that, you should get instant approvals at least 35% of the time plus. And again, an instant approval means it never touches an underwriter and it goes to the case manager to issue. If it doesn't, you're going to wait 3, 4, 5 business days for the underwriter to review it and get back to you.
Devon.
Chris.
Why don't they take those attachment pages out of the application process to eliminate the confusion? Why can't they just eliminate that certain page in the application?
I'm going to take that one step further. So the real answer is because we use iPipeline. It's not our company. So if the application's ever down, It's not National Life, it's their company. What we're trying to do is to simply make it to where the attachment can just be reviewed. So I want an instant approval and get that approved and then go to the case manager for them to look at the attachment. That's what I'm asking to do. But right now we're just at the mercy of the iPipeline system.
Got it.
The other thing, it says in the last 12 months, what prescriptions have you taken? And you're saying if you took one in the last 24 months, disclose that. So there's a little contradiction there.
I apologize. Words are important. I should have said 12 months, not 24. I was just giving an example.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Neal, nothing gets by you. MJ, I wish you luck.
The main thing is you just have to ask a lot of questions. Find out what they've been on. I asked them multiple times over and over. How are you on any kind of prescription meds?
Tell me, 'cause we're going to find it. Yep.
Okay. I'm looking at the